Okay. So epsilon naught is the permittivity of the vacuum. Then the electric field in the region will be how much? It will be sigma divided by epsilon naught.
Sigma by.
Yeah. When you place an electric dipole in non-uniform electric field, what happens? It experiences torque as well as
Force.
Force.
So what is the answer? Both a torque and a net
Yes.
force. Yes. Fifth one. 6 charges, each of the same magnitude and same nature, are placed at the corners of a regular hexagon of side A. The electric field at the point of intersection of diagonals is how much? So what is the answer? If you see these kind of problems, it's a regular shape, right? For a regular shape, you're trying to calculate something at the center, the answer will be 0 because of its symmetry, right? So what will happen? Just to explain, okay? So what exactly is going to happen when these things are going to meet? This point and this point, they're exactly opposite to each other. So the forces will also be opposite to each other. Since they're of the same magnitude, they'll have same, since the charges are of same magnitude, the electric field will also be of the same value, but in opposite direction. So they get cancelled out, right? Answer is 0. Sixth, there is an electric field in the x direction. If the work done in moving a charge of 0.2 coulomb through a distance of 2 meters along the line, making an angle 60 degrees with the x-axis 4 joule, what is the value of PE? So how to solve this? So work done is equal to F into S into cos theta. We know this. So what is the value of force? Q into E. And how much is the displacement cost? 2. And how much is cos theta? Half. So 2 and 2 will get cancelled. Work done is given as 4. So 4 is equal to 0.2 into E. E will be 4 divided by 0.2. That is 40 divided by 2, which is 20 Newton per coulomb. Right. Seventh one. There is an electron which is moving around the nucleus of a hydrogen atom in a circular orbit of radius r. So what is the Coulomb force that is existing between them? Can you guys tell me? So you take a hydrogen atom. How many electrons does it contain?
One
electron. And how much is the value of what is the value of its atomic number? It is all again 1. So the nucleus contains a charge of E. Z into E, right? Z into E is the charge of the nucleus. So the distance between these two, if I call it as R, right? So what is going to be the value of force? It is K Q1 Q2, that is Q square divided by R square. This is a magnitude. So I can write it as K E square divided by R square. But this is the direction of R vector and this is the direction of force. Correct? So F will be equal to, can I put the sign here? K E square divided by R square into negative of R cap. Correct? So electron is going to experience a force in the direction negative of R cap. So this is K E square divided by R cube into R vector with a minus sign. Because R cap is equal to what? R vector divided by magnitude of R vector. So answer will be minus K E square R vector divided by R cube. Okay. See, there should have been a slightly modified question. Instead of asking what is the Coulomb force between the two, they should have asked what is the Coulomb force experienced by electron. Okay. This would be more appropriate. But yeah, did you understand how to solve this problem? If suppose in the place of hydrogen atom, they replace it with some other atom, you need to remember that the nucleus has a charge of Z into E, where Z is the atomic number of that particular element. Okay. So that is the only point you need to remember. I hope there is no doubt, right, guys? Shall I move on?
No doubt, sir. No doubt.
Okay, very good. So eighth one is a very easy one. There is an electrolytic capacitor which is marked 8 microfarad and 220 volt. See, whenever they use the word marked, right, this is called as power rating. Or it is the specification. When you go to a shop and buy, that is a specification. You buy a 8 microfarad capacitor, which can be operated on a maximum value of how much? 220 volt. It can be used in a circuit whose potential difference across the capacity. Capacity means the capacitor will be how much? You need not solve this question. This is actually a theory question.
200 volt.
Why is it 200 volt? Because
Shouldn't
the
be more
max,
than
yes, maximum it can sustain. This is called as the breakdown voltage. Okay, so this is called as the breaking value, where beyond this, if you try to apply anything, the capacitor will lose its property. Okay. Ninth one. The electric field at a point XYZ is given by, electric potential at XYZ is given as V is equal to minus X square Y minus XZ cube plus 4. The electric field at that point will be how much?
Option D.
Option B.
D. Option
D,
D.
sir, last option.
Last option.
Last is right. But I hope everybody knows how to do it, right? So E vector is equal to minus dou V divided by dou R. That is minus dou V divided by dou X I cap minus dou V divided by dou Y J cap minus dou V divided by dou Z K cap. Right? So dou V divided by dou X means how much will you get? Minus 2xy. Minus 2xy minus Z cube. And there is already a minus sign outside. So it becomes plus 2xy plus Z cube. Next. Minus this thing. Plus x square plus z square, 3z square x. Okay. So option D is right. How to do the 10th one? 10th one, what is the answer?
5 microfarad.
Yes, but how did he get it?
2 microfarad, 2 microfarad, and another 2 microfarad are in series.
Which one? This one and this one, huh?
Yeah.
Are they in series? Think about it.
Sorry, sir. Parallel.
Yes, they are parallel. Then?
And then 12 microfarad will be connected to that parallel circuit.
In?
And
Okay,
series.
you want me to redraw? See, I would have told this, right? Remember, for these kind of questions, right? Suppose this comes under the capacitance or problem based on capacitors or resistors. What you need to do is you need to redraw the circuit first. Okay, if you take P here and if you take Q here, okay. So from P, what is happening here? The 2 microfarad is there. So this point, this point, this point, and this point, they all are at the same potential. So this 2 microfarad can get shifted here also. Are you able to understand what I'm doing? Right? Are you able to understand, everyone? So it will be something like this. Then that will be in series with the 12 microfarad capacitor. And the whole thing will be like this. Because I told you these 2 points are at same. So this 2 microfarad capacitor is like directly it is connected between the points P and Q. So this is 2, this is 12, this 2, this 2. So these 2 are in parallel. So this becomes how much? 4?
4 microfarad.
4 and 4 and 12 are in series. So it becomes 4 into 12 divided by 4 plus 12. That is 48 divided by 16, which becomes, so this whole thing is 4. 4 and 2 are in parallel. So 16. Sorry, it is not 4, it is 3, right?
3.
Again, 3 and 2 are in parallel. So 3 and 2 are in parallel.
5.
You add them to get 5. Right. So I recommend everybody to solve these kind of problems and see. Looking at the way the questions are being asked, right, in the past exams, so I would rather suggest try for the tougher ones also. Next, 11th one. The angle between the electric lines of force and equipotential surface. Theory question. The electric lines of force, that is electric field lines and equipotential surface, is always perpendicular to each other. 12th. There is a point at point A, there is an electric field of 500 voltmeter and a potential difference of 3000 volt. The distance between the point charge and A. So there is a point charge Q and there is a point, okay. There is a point A. So at this point A, if you measure the electric field, it is 500. If you measure the potential difference, it is 3000 volt. So E is equal to KQ divided by, let me call this distance as R square. So KQ divided by R square is 500. KQ divided by R is 3000. So divide both. KQ divided by R square divided by KQ divided by R is equal to 500 divided by 3000. It becomes 1 by 6. KQ gone. 1 R is gone. So R will be equal to 6. Is there an option? Yes. 6 meter is the answer. Right. 13th. What is the answer, guys? So there is an there is an electric charge 10 power minus 3 microcoulomb, that is 10 nanocoulomb, is placed at origin of the xy coordinate. 2 points A and B are situated at root 2, root 2 and 2, 0. The potential difference between the points A and B. See, the charge is the same. If you measure the distance, this distance is also 2. Root of 2 plus 2, that is root 4, 2. And this distance is also 2. Because this charged particle is placed at the origin. I hope you're able to understand what I'm trying to say. So charged particle is placed at the origin. One of the coordinates is root 2, root 2. And the other coordinate is 2, 0. This distance and this distance are same. So these 2 points are said to be at the same potential. Hence the potential difference is 0. 14th. The potential at a point due to the positive charge of 100 microcoulomb at a distance of 9 meters. So 9 into 10 power 9 into 100 into 10 power minus 6 divided by 9. 9 and 9 will get cancelled. 100 into 10 power 3, that is 10 power 5 volt. 14th one is A. Right. So how to do the 15th one, guys? When a current of 0.2 ampere is drawn from a battery, then the potential difference between these terminals is 20 volt and the current is 2 ampere. Sorry, potential difference is 20 volt. Whereas when a current of 2 ampere is drawn, the potential difference drops to 16 volt. Now, what is the EMF? So what do you mean by the word drawn? Drawn means is the battery getting discharged or charged?
Battery is getting
Discharge, sir.
Discharge. So there are two formulae, right? V is equal to E minus IR. You will use when the battery is getting discharged, and V is equal to E plus IR is used when the battery is getting charged. So read the question carefully next time onwards. Okay. So first case, 20 is equal to E minus. What is the value of I? 0.2 into R. In the second case, 16 is equal to E minus 2 into R. Correct? So multiply the first equation with 100. It becomes 200 is equal to, multiplied with 10. So it becomes 200 is equal to 10E minus 2R. So you have 16 is equal to E minus 2R. Subtract both. 200 minus 16. 184 is equal to 9 times E. So E is equal to how much, guys? 184 by 9.
Approximately 2, sir.
20.40, right? 40 means 20.4 something will come. This is the answer. So it is 20.4 volt.
So I have a doubt, sir.
Tell me.
Sir, if we can equate E right here, sir, for both equations,
We can
then we can
equate,
find R. By equating E is equal to for both equations.
but
and then
again,
we
you
can
but
find.
no, but the question is about EMF. No, you're doing two steps. See, it is like linear equation and two variables stuff. What is needed, you will find that I eliminated the unwanted part, that is R. You can do that. If you have done it that way, it is only a time consuming process. You will find R and again substitute it back in any one of the equation. If I'm not that, is that what you did?
Yes, sir, I did that, sir.
That is right only, but it is a time consuming process. You would have got the same answer.
Yes, I got the same answer.
Then the mathematical part I'm leaving it to you. That's your technique.
Okay, sir.
Okay, but yeah, but the logic is clear, right, for everyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 20.4 is the answer. 16th one. So there is a potentiometer wire that has been set up for finding the internal resistance of a cell. So what is the formula for finding the internal resistance of a cell if you know the balance lengths? R is equal to L1 by L2 minus 1 into capital R. Right. The main battery used across the potentiometer wire has an EMF of 2 volt and negligible internal resistance. Okay. The potentiometer wire is 10 meter long. When the resistance capital R connected across the given cell has values of infinity and 9.5, the balancing lengths on the potentiometer wire are 3 and 2.85. So L1 is 3, L2 is this much respectively. Then the value of the internal resistance of the cell, you have everything substituted. R is equal to 3 divided by 2.85 minus 1 into capital R is how much? No, capital R is not given. Capital, when resistance R connected across, resistance capital R has a value of 9.5. So when it has 9.5, what will happen? So R is equal to 3 minus 2.85 divided by 2.85 into 9.5. So what is 3 minus 2.85? 0.15 divided by 2.85 into 9.5. Assuming everything is divisible by 9 by 5. So this goes 3 times. This goes 57 times. This goes 19 times. So 95 divided by 19.
5 times.
95 divided by 190.
5 by 10, sir.
5 by 10. Which number you cancel? 19.
Yes.
5 by 10. So 0.5
So it'll
is
be
the
1
answer.
by 2.
Yeah, 0.5 is the answer. Right. 17th. There are 3
Sir,
resistance.
Sir, I have a doubt, sir. For the first subdivision, why are they given the infinity, sir?
Which one?
First subdivision. When
So when the resistance
R
R is connected across the, so because they are doing the experiment with 2 parts to find the 2 balancing lengths. That is why in the first case they told infinity doesn't mean infinity literally. Here infinity means a very high value which they don't want to disclose. Like how you say voltmeter has infinite resistance, something similar. Okay, so generally when you do this experiment, I'm not sure if you guys have done this experiment. When you do this experiment, you would have seen a resistance box, right? Have you seen it or not? Please give me that confirmation.
Yes, sir.
You have seen it, right?
Yes,
You will keep
sir.
removing the knobs. You will keep removing the key from each thing to introduce the resistance. In that, they are trying to say a very high value is removed so that we will get a value for a balance length. For a balance length from the starting point. That is the reason why they gave infinity, nothing else. Okay. So three resistances P, Q, R of 2 ohm and an unknown resistance S form the four arms of a Wheatstone bridge circuit. When the resistance of 6 ohm is connected in parallel to S, the bridge gets balanced. What is the value of S? So I'm assuming they are in order. P, Q, R, and S. To this S, what have they done? They have connected a 6 ohm resistor in parallel so that the circuit is balanced. So P divided by 6S by 6 plus S is equal to Q divided by R. Correct? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So P into so P divided by Q. P is how much? Everything is same, huh?
Ah,
So
yes,
this
sir.
and this will get
Everything is
cancelled.
2.
So 2 will be equal to 6S divided by 6 plus S. So 12 plus 2S is equal to 6S. So 12 is equal to 4S. S is equal to 3. This answer. 18th. The current through the cell is how much? Simple. These two are in series. So 3 and 6 are in parallel. 6 into 3 by 6 plus 3, 18 divided by 9, 2. So this whole circuit can be replaced with a 2 ohm resistor. 2 volt connected across 2 ohm will give you 1 ampere. 19th one is also easy. 1 kilowatt hour is how many joules?
36 into 10 power 5.
That's it. What is the following relation? So which of the following relation is called as current density?
I by
I
A.
by A.
Yes. So a filament bulb whose power is this much value operated at 100 volt is used in a 230 volt main supply. When resistance R is connected in series, it works perfectly and the bulb consumes 500 watt. The value of R is. So let's try to draw a diagram. There is a bulb. And to this bulb, what are you doing? You are connecting a resistance R in series. And this whole thing is operated at. Are you guys able to relate this concept to AC? This 230 volt that they have given here, right? Is it DC or AC? It is a DC
Yes.
value. It is a DC value, which is equal to what? The RMS value of AC. That is why you understand there they give 220, 230. That is why we take RMS value, because RMS value of an AC is the equivalent DC amount. Try to understand that concept. So this can be actually related to the concept there. So 500 watt and 100 volt means what is going to be the value of this resistance. So R is equal to, okay, 1 minute. A filament of this much is used in this. When a resistance R is connected in series, it works perfectly and the bulb consumes 500 watt. The value of R is.
Sir, we can use V
46.
square by R.
You can use P is equal to, means we can find the value of current, no? P is equal to V into I. What do we mean by bulb works fine? It works perfectly means what is the meaning? Generally, if you introduce a resistance, right? You know that house wiring system has parallel connections, right? Suppose this kind of a question comes in case-based study, you should understand what they're trying to say. So you try to understand, in our house, you know that from the domestic wiring system, all the devices are connected in parallel. Why do we do that? This is
Equal
no
amount
concept.
of current.
You will have equal voltage being supplied to everything. Right? Potential difference will be the same. And second important thing is, even if one device is spoiled, the other will be unaffected. Whereas something you connect in a series, if you take two bulbs and connect in series, what will happen? Even if one bulb stops working, the other will stop. Stop in the sense it can't work because current will not flow through the first one or second one, whichever is spoiled. right? Using the same logic, what they're trying to say is, I could have directly taken this bulb and connected it to the 230 volt. It would have given me some intensity, right? That 500 watt and which can be operated at 100 volt will have some intensity. I hope you understand what is intensity, the brightness. It will give us some brightness, right? But they're trying to say that the brightness it is giving is not affected by me connecting another resistance in series also. Okay. So it is unaffected. If that is the case, then I'm interested to calculate what is the value of resistance that I can connect so that it is unaffected. Correct? And they are saying that the bulb still consumes 500 watt. So for it to consume its 500 watt, what is the amount of energy? What is the amount of current that is supposed to flow through it? What is the amount of current that's supposed to flow through it? Can you guys tell me? So power is equal to V.
5 amperes.
Tell me. 500.
500 by 100. 5 amperes.
It's not use 230. You should use 500 divided by 100 is equal to V. Sorry, I is equal to I. So I will be equal to 5. So 5 ampere of current is flowing through the circuit, which is being operated at 230 volt. Now apply Ohm's law. 230 is equal to V is equal to I into R. So R is how much? What is the total resistance of the circuit? What is the total resistance, guys? Okay, I can make it
R only, right, sir?
No, it is not R. R plus the resistance of this, but I can make it simple. See, when 100 volt is being consumed here out of 230, what will be the remaining volt that will get consumed? It is 130 volt. So can I say 130 is equal to I into capital R? Now it makes sense. So, but what is the value of current that is flowing since it is a series circuit? It is 5 ampere, 5 into R. R will be equal to 130 divided by 5. How much is the answer?
26.
2
Sir.
times 26. It's a very good question. Better practice attacking. Okay. So there is a beam of cathode rays which is subjected to crossed. What do you mean by crossed? I told this many times. What do you mean by crossed electric and magnetic fields? It means they are perpendicular. Right? Crossed electric and magnetic fields. The fields are adjusted such that the beam is not deflected. So beam is not deflected means it is traveling without any deviation. So till here, if you read the statement, what concept comes to your mind? Is it not something like velocity selector? Guys, am I clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Next. They mentioned, see, this is also an important question. Okay, there are many technical words are used in it. Now they're asking, what is the specific charge of the cathode rays that is given by, the specific charge of the cathode rays is given by where V is the potential difference between the cathode and the anode. Okay, so how do you mention the specific charge of this particular cathode ray? So what do you mean by specific charge in the first place? Anybody? So if you don't know, please make a note. Specific charge is charge per mass ratio. It is the E by M ratio. Okay. So all those things that I am discussing are applicable under a cathode ray tube. You would have heard about CRT monitors. I'm not sure if you have seen in movies and all. There will be certain monitors which will be something like this. In old movies and all, you can see there will be an extension like this. Have you ever seen this? Because you can't find it in these days. Computer monitors and TVs used to be like this. There will be a small extension at the back. And this will be the side. This extension is what we call it as CRT. They'll call it as CRT monitors, which is cathode ray tube monitors. The reason why I'm telling all these things is this can come as a source-based question also. At that point, if they use these kind of words, don't get scared. Read the question properly. Okay, question will be simple, but I'm just being alert that you should not get scared looking at these words. That is the reason I'm explaining. Okay, so specific charge means E by M of the cathode rays, which is given by. So how is it given as? So first thing, what comes to your mind? These beam is getting a velocity. It is getting kinetic energy due to the work done by the potential difference E into V. So E by M is equal to small v square divided by 2 into capital B. But you want the answer in terms of capital B. Okay, capital B is in the denominator for B and C. But what is small b? I told you it is a velocity selector concept also. For velocity selector, when you have crossed electric and magnetic fields, V will be equal to capital E divided by B. Take it and substitute it in the numerator. So E square divided by 2 times capital B into B square is the answer. This is the answer. More than the answer, I'm concerned whether everybody has understood how to study the question, how to read the question.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Next. So 23rd is an easy one. There is a circular coil which has a radius A and the current flowing through it is I. Another circular coil has a radius of 2A and it is the current is 2I. And to actually see next time onwards, if these kind of printing mistakes comes, understand that it is I, okay, through it, then the magnetic fields at the center of the coil will be how much? So then the magnetic fields at the centers of the coil will be in the ratio. So B1 is to B2 is equal to mu naught I divided by 2A is to mu naught I divided by 4A. 2 mu naught I divided by 4A. A gone, mu naught I is gone. 4 is to 4. It will be 1 is to 1. 23rd option is C. 24. Two long parallel wires P and Q are held perpendicular to the plane of the paper with a distance of 5 meters between them. Okay. If P and Q carry a current of 2.5 amperes and 5 ampere respectively in the same direction, then the magnitude of the field halfway between the wires is how much? They are held perpendicular to the plane of the paper. Let me say this is the Z axis I'm trying to talk about. Okay. With a distance of 5 meters between them. So 5 meters is the distance between them. At a point midway means this is 2.5 meters. I'm interested to calculate what will be the value of then the magnetic field at the midpoint. Okay, how to calculate? So B will current is flowing in the same direction. So current is flowing in the same direction, right? So if I take this as 1 and this as 2, what is the value of B1? B1 will be equal to mu naught I1 divided by 2 pi into D1. And B2 will be equal to mu naught I2 divided by 2 pi into D2. Can you tell me what is the direction of B1? Is it into the plane or out of the plane? Can you tell me the direction of magnetic field due to the first? Sorry?
Into the plane.
Correct. Due to the second conductor, it is out of the plane. Correct? So the principle of superposition when you're using, it should become B2 minus B1. Because they asked only the magnitude. So B2 minus B1. So mu naught divided by 2 pi. If I take it out, I1 is how much? 2.5 divided by distance is 2.5 minus I2 is 2.5. I2 is 5. Oh, I made a mistake. Sorry. I2 is 5 divided by 2.5, and here it is 2.5 divided by 2.5. Cancel it. So this will go 2 times, this will go 1 time. So mu naught divided by 2 pi is how much? That is 2 into 10 power. We can leave it as it is, right? Mu naught by 2 pi can be left as it is. So 3 times mu naught I divided by 2 pi. Is there an option? 25th. So 25th, the last question of section A. How to do this, guys? There is a circular coil of radius capital R which carries an electric current. The magnetic field due to the coil at the point on the axis of the coil located at distance R from the center of the coil such that small r is very much greater than capital R. So first of all, how do you calculate the magnetic field due to a circular coil on its axis? B is equal to mu naught I a square, that is R square, divided by 2 into R square plus small r square, the whole power 3 by 2. Right? When small r is very much greater than capital R, can I say R square plus small r plus capital R square is approximately equal to small r square? Correct? So if I take and substitute it here, I'll get mu naught I capital R square divided by 2 into small r square, the whole power 3 by 2. So how will it vary? The magnetic field will vary according to the relation
1 by R cube.
1 divided by this is the answer. I don't know why my device is behaving slow, not responding at all. Yeah, this is the answer. 26th. Wait, let me erase this. So this is the answer. Here, this is the answer. Sorry, guys, it is not responding. This is 1:1. This is this part. Right. So the magnetic field of given length of a wire for single turn at the center is B. The magnetic field of a given length of wire for single turn coil is B. The value of 2 turns will be how much? Very simple. 2B. Because it's directly proportional to N, right? No, actually, this is the mistake we do. So if the length of the wire is like this, if it is bent as one turn, a coil of 1 turn, and if the radius is R, R will be equal to L divided by 2 pi R. So 2 pi R is equal to L. So what will be the magnetic field at the center? Mu naught I divided by 2R. So 2 into L divided by 2 pi. So 2 and 2 will get cancelled. Mu naught pi into I divided by L. Correct? So this is for the first one. If suppose it has 2 turns, then what will happen? Then R would have been L by 4 pi. Think about it, guys. Are you able to understand? R will be equal to L divided by 4 pi. So B2 will be equal to mu naught I divided by, actually it will be 2 into mu naught I divided by how much? Two into L divided by 4 pi. So 2 and 2 will get cancelled. It becomes 4 times mu naught I into pi divided by L. So this is B. It becomes 4 times. Did you understand why it is so? Did you understand why I wrote R is equal to L by 4 pi? Because the same length of the wire, if it has to be turned twice, means you should get 2 times the circumference of that particular radius. So 4 pi R is equal to L. Okay, Rohan, I hope you understood. I think you only told 2B, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Seventh. When a charged particle moves perpendicular to the magnetic field, then what will happen? Speed of the particle remains unchanged. The direction of the particle remains unchanged. Speed of the particle is changed. Acceleration of the particle remains unchanged. So what is the answer? So when a charged particle moves perpendicular to magnetic field, what is the path followed by it? Is it not circular? So in circular path, here we are talking about uniform circular motion. Correct? So for uniform circular motion, what will happen? The speed of the particle will remain unchanged, because its direction will change. Uniform here means a constant speed. It's not constant velocity. Don't get confused. Velocity has direction. Direction keeps changing, but the speed remains constant. 28. There is a galvanometer of 30 divisions that has a current sensitivity of 20 microampere per division. So there is a galvanometer which has 30 divisions. Okay. And current sensitivity is 20 microampere per division. So what will be the full scale deflection current? Ig will be equal to 20 micro
10 power minus.
into 30 into 30. So it will be 600. I hope you understood. That is the reason why they gave these two parameters. It has a resistance.
600
So the
microampere, right, sir?
Oh, sorry, microampere. Yeah. It has a resistance of 25 ohm. It has a resistance of 25 ohm. How will you convert it into an ammeter up to 1 ampere range? So what are we supposed to do? You need to connect a shunt resistance. And what is the formula for shunt resistance? S is equal to Ig into capital G divided by I minus Ig. So Ig is how much? (600) into 10 power minus 6 into capital G is 25. By 1 minus 600 into 10 power minus 6. So this value is very, very small. That can be ignored compared to 1. So numerator will be 25 into 6. 25 into 6 is how much? 300. So 300 00 into 10 power minus 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 into
25 into 6 is 150.
150. Yeah? Sorry. It will be 115,000 up. So 15,000 means it will become 1.5 into 10 power minus 2. So 0.015. Is that an option? Yes.
Yes,
This
sir.
is the shunt resistance. So 28
B, right,
C is
sir,
the
not C.
C does 0.015. No? 1.5 into 10 power minus 2.
Yes, sir.
That is the answer. So do be careful. Here you will get this answer only when you know that you are supposed to do the approximation in the denominator. By now you would have understood that there are many problems related to galvanometer and voltmeter and ammeter where you do these approximations, right? 29th. At a given place on Earth's surface, the horizontal component of the Earth's magnetic field is this much, and the resultant magnetic field is this much. The angle of dip is how much? So BH is equal to BE cos delta. There is a textbook problem. So 3 into 10 power minus 5 is equal to 6 into 10 power minus 5 into cos delta. This will cancel this 2 times. This is gone. So cos delta is equal to half. Delta is equal to 60 degrees. 30th. You need not even solve this. Answer is 9.27 into 10 power minus 24. That is the value of 1 Bohr magneton. Wait. 31st. The coefficient of mutual inductance when magnetic flux changes by 2 into 10 power minus 2 Weber and current by 0.01 ampere in 1 second. So how do you find it? M is equal to E divided by delta I by delta T. So M is 2 into M is what we need to find. The flux changes this much. So the flux is changing at this rate. Okay. So M will be equal to E divided by delta I by delta T. And we know that M is equal to
So we can change E as del phi by del T, right? So
yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, can change is a del phi by delta. Actually, there is a formula delta phi by delta I. So M is how much? That's what we need to find. So 2 into 10 power minus 2 divided by delta I is 0.01. So 200, this goes numerous, 2 is the answer, right? So 30 second, what is the answer? Given magnetic field B and area and length of the solenoid, the magnetic energy per unit volume is how much?
option D.
E square divided by 2 mu naught, correct. 33. What should be the core of an electromagnet?
Soft
So
iron.
there is a formula, guys. B square divided by 2 mu naught. Okay. You should use a soft iron, correct. 34th. A metal ring is held horizontally and a bar magnet is dropped through the ring with its length along the axis of the ring. The acceleration of the falling magnet will be?
Yes, then
Why?
it will induce flux will
It
increase. So due to which Lorentz force will act upon the bar magnet.
No, not Lorentz force. Due to it, there will be a magnetic field that will get induced here, which will oppose the cause. Had this not been there, it would have fallen with a value of G. But there is an opposition acting, it will travel with a value lesser than G. It's not Lorentz force, it's Lenz law. Lorentz force comes when charged particle is moving into the magnetic field. When current changes from 2 to minus 2 ampere in 0.05 seconds, EMF is 8 volt. EMF of 8 volt is induced in the coil. The coefficient of self-inductance L is equal to E divided by delta I by delta T. So 8 divided by 8 divided by delta I by delta T is 4 divided by 0.05 is 5 by 100. So this will go 2 times. So 200 divided by 5. Did I make any mistake? So E divided by delta I is 4 divided by delta T 0.05. So 0.05 goes to the numerator. 8 into 0.05 divided by 4. So it should be 40. 0.4 divided by 4, it is 0.1. 0.1 is right. 36. There is a coil of certain radius which has 100 turns and self-inductance of 50 millihenry. The self-inductance of a second similar coil of 500 turns will be how much? So what is the relation between self-inductance and radius? Sorry, not radius, sir. Turns. So what is the relation between the self-inductance and radius? Sorry, number of turns. Can I say L is directly proportional to the square of the number of turns? You will get mu naught n square AL. So L is directly proportional to n square. So L is in the first case 15 into 10 power minus 3. Second case is what you need to find is equal to 100 divided by 500 the whole square. That will become 25. So 25 into 15 will give you 375. This will be the answer. So 375 millihenry. There is a wire loop which is rotated in magnetic field. The frequency of change of direction of the induced EMF will take twice per revolution. This I have discussed many times. Because an alternating current will get generated, so frequency changes its direction twice per revolution. 38. The frequency of an alternating voltage is 50 cycles per second and the amplitude is 120 volt, then its RMS value will be. E naught is 120. E RMS is equal to 0.707 into 120. How much is answer when you multiply? So 12 sevenths should be 84. This should be the answer. 84.4. Sorry, 84.8. 39. Choose the correct statement. The capacitor can connect in DC circuit, but not an inductor. In a DC circuit, capacitor can conduct. Is that right?
No, sir.
In a DC circuit, the inductor can conduct, but not a capacitor. Is that right? In a DC circuit, inductor can conduct, but not a capacitor. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
it
sir.
is. So option 2 is the right answer. This is the one. But we'll read the other one also. In DC circuit, both inductor and capacitor cannot conduct. No. The inductor has infinite resistance in the DC circuit. No. 40th. In an AC circuit, an alternating voltage of E is equal to 200 into root 2 sine 100 volt is connected to a capacitor of 1 microfarad capacity. The RMS value of current in the circuit. So RMS value IRMS is equal to ERMS divided by XC. Okay, what is ERMS?
200 root 2.
No, that is
Sorry,
E not.
200.
It is 200 because 200 root 2 divided by root 2 divided by XC is how much? Omega into C.
One.
Omega is 100 into C is how much? 10 power minus 6. This will go 2 times. So 2 into 10 power. Why are we getting so big value? 100 to 1 into 1 by 2 by XC, right? Sorry. It is not. XC is 1 by omega C. So 200 divided by 1 by omega is 100 into 10 power minus 6. So this will go to the numerator. So 200 into 100 into 10 power minus 6. That will become 2 into 10 power minus 2 ampere. Or I can write
So
it
it
as
will be
20 milliampere.
milliampere.
Yes. 40th option A is right. Yeah, option A is right. Yes. 41. This is a good question. This thing, this 20 milliampere. Some problem with my device. Not responding. So there is a series combination of resistance R and capacitor C, which is connected to an AC source of angular frequency omega. Keeping the voltage same, if the frequency is changed to omega by 3, the current becomes half the original current. Then the ratio of capacitive reactance and the resistance at the former frequencies. So how to calculate it? Let me take this question on a new page. Mark it as important. If you have solved, well and good. Did anyone solve this?
I didn't do so.
Okay. Anyone else who has solved? At least tried solving but got stuck? No one? Okay. So listen to this carefully. So there is a series combination of resistor and capacitor. Resistor, capacitor, which is connected to an AC source of angular frequency omega. So R and C. Okay. If the frequency is changed to omega by 3, the current becomes half the original current. So if I say the current here is I, here it becomes R, here it is R, and still the same C is connected. But can you tell me, by changing the frequency, what parameter is going to change in this circuit? There is something that
Impedance
will
will change. Sir.
not impedance will change, but before impedance, there is something else that is impedance is changing because of whom? It is because of the capacitive. It is because of capacitive reactance. So they are asking the capacitive reactance and resistance at the former frequency. So if at former frequency, that is at omega, if I take the capacitance to be XC, sorry, not capacitance, the reactance to be XC, and here I will call it as XC dash. Okay. So can I say I is equal to how much? I is equal to how much? You're doing what? You're only changing the frequency, but you're not changing the RMS value. Try to understand the difference. So I is equal to, let's say the potential difference here is V. Here also it is V only. Am I clear, guys? By changing the frequency, what is changing? Only the capacitive reactance is going to change because it is dependent on omega, but V will not change. Okay, RMS value will not change. So I will be equal to V divided by Z. Z is root of R square plus XC square. I by 2 will be equal to V divided by root of R square plus X dash C the whole square. Correct? Right? I by 2, sorry. Now I don't want V to be in the equation. So I will divide both the equations. So I divided by I by 2 will give me 2 is equal to root of R square plus XC dash the whole square divided by root of R square plus XC square, which implies 4 times R square plus 4 times XC square is equal to R square plus XC dash square. Correct, Ada? So what is the value of XC dash? Is there anything that is getting cancelled? So 3R square.
XC dash square as 9XC square.
Why 9XC square? Because XC is equal to, yeah, XC is inversely proportional to omega. Is that what you're trying to say? Right?
Yes,
XC is, yeah, inversely proportional to omega. So XC dash will be equal to 3 times XC. Correct? So this will become 9 times XC square. So 3R square plus 4XC square is equal to R square plus 9XC square. Oh, I made it. 1 minute. There's 4R square. Now it will become 3R square is equal to 5 times XC square. So XC divided by R is equal to 3 divided by 5 under a root. So 3 divided by 5 under a root will be root of 0.6. Guys, everyone clear with what I did? If something comes like this, you should be in a position to attend it tomorrow. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 42nd. In an oscillating LC circuit, the maximum charge on the capacitor is Q. The charge on the capacitor when the energy is stored equally between the electric and the magnetic fields. So what is the energy stored in the electric field? It is Q square divided by 2C. They are saying Q square divided by 2C is equal to half the maximum charge on the capacitor. In an oscillating circuit, the maximum charge on the capacitor is Q. Then the charge on the capacitor when the energy is stored equally between the electric and the magnetic fields. So Q square divided by 2C is equal to half Li square. When this happens, they want to know what is the charge that is getting stored in it.
Sorry, instead of Q square by 2C, why can't we use half Q?
Half Q into V.
Yes, sir.
You can't use that here because initially what will happen, see, in an LC oscillation circuit, what will happen? You will have C and L which are connected across each other. like this, right? If you observe, this is the only scenario where you will not have a battery. Correct? So this would have been charged to a full value. You can use QV, but how will you know what is the extent to which it is charged? Right. So when you do it practically, you will be able to know only the value of Q and the capacitance C because you would have bought it from some shop. So you can know the charge and C. You're able to understand. So you'll use Q square by 2C is equal to half LA square, 1 minute. In an oscillating, the maximum charge on the capacitor is this much. Okay, let's think of the logic. So initially, what will happen? Initially, what will be the energy that will be present? Will it be energy present in the electric field form or magnetic field form in an LC oscillator? Just now I told you. It is a capacitor that is fully charged. So UE will be equal to how much? Q square divided by 2C. Correct? So when energy is equal, so this is going to be the total energy. Try to understand. This is the total energy from which you can start supplying it across the magnetic and the electric field. Right? So when they both are equal, if I call UE dash, how much will UE dash be? This should lose half of its initial value. Right? UE dash should be half of Q square divided by 2C, and the remaining will appear in the form of magnetic field. Correct? So, now what will happen? The energy stored in the capacitor is Q square by 2C. They're asking between the electric, the charge on the capacitor. Okay, they're asking what would have been the charge when the energy becomes half. So what would have been the energy of the capacitor when the energy has become half? It will be Q dash square divided by 2C. Are you able to understand this point?
Yes,
Where
sir.
Q dash is what? Q dash is the charge when the electric and the magnetic field share the same amount of energy. Q dash square divided by 2C. C will not change. This should be numerically equal to how much value? Half of the initial energy that the capacitor possessed. So this 2C and 2C will be gone. So Q dash to Q divided by root 2. Is there an option? Yeah. So 42nd, the option is A. 43rd. I hope it is clear, right? This is also a good problem. So there is a condenser of 250 microfarad which is connected in parallel. Condenser is a capacitor which is connected in parallel to a coil of inductance 0.16 meter. What is it? While its effective resistance is 20 ohm. Determine the resonant frequency. Simple question.
8 into 10 to the power.
8 into 10 power. How did you do? It is 1 by
Omega is equal to 1 by root LC. So omega is equal to I used omega is equal to 1 by root LC.
Okay, but when you will use omega is equal to 1 by root LC, when they have asked in radians per second.
2 pi f. Omega is equal to 2 pi f. And
yes, omega is equal to 2 pi f. Then from there, you need to divide it with 2 pi. If you did that, you got 8 into 10 power 15.
yes, sir.
Okay, 1 by 2 pi into 1 divided by root of 250 into 10 power minus 6 into C is how much? Oh, C is this much. L is 0.16 into 10 power minus 3. Correct? Answer is right. So for the calculation part, 1 divided by 2 pi, what are we supposed to? So first, let's try to calculate this value. Then we will divide it with 1 by 2 pi. So 1 divided by, can I make it as, so how much did we get? 1 by 2 pi into root of 250 into 10 power minus 6 into 0.16, 0.16 into 10 power minus 3. So 1 divided by 2 pi into root of 2500 into 10 power minus 7 into 16 into 10 power minus 5. So this will become 10 power minus 7 into 10 power minus 5 is 10 power minus 12. Square root of 10 power minus 12 is 10 power minus 6. That will go to the numerator as 10 power 6 divided by 2 pi into square root of 2500 is 50 into square root of 16 is 4. So 10 power 6 divided by 2 pi into 50 into 4 is going to give us a 200. 2 zeros are gone, it becomes 10 power 4. So 10 power 4 divided by 4 pi. So 10 power 4 is how much? 10,000 divided by 4 into pi. So this goes 250. So 250 divided by 3.14. So what I'm trying to do is, so 250 divided by 3 point, but 10 power 5, where did you get from that? There is something missing, no?
Sir, I got 0.78 something, sir.
You got the 10 power 5, huh?
Not the 10 power 5, but I got almost, I was near that answer, so I thought that option A
That's
would
right.
be.
That is right. That is how you need to do it. But here, while it's effective resistance, oh, I need to take this effective resistance into consideration. Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't see this part. This is not a part of your syllabus. So I was only looking at these two. I don't know, when I gave this question, I missed this effective resistance of 20, because when this is there, you need to subtract that value and do it. This is not a part of the syllabus. You will get marks for this. Okay, if anybody has attempted, 8 into 10 power 5 is right. If you did by some other means and you got the same answer, it is right. But remember, guys, if this kind of question comes, right, there were many students who are asking me, sir, when resonant frequency is asked, do I need to calculate omega or frequency? Do I need to calculate omega or f? If they give the resonant frequency option in terms of radian per second, calculate omega. If they give it in terms of hertz, calculate f. Okay. Here, actually, we need to divide it with 2 pi, but unfortunately, since this part is there, we cannot calculate. So you're able to understand, I'm getting 250 by 3.14. Even if I approximate 3.14 to 3, it will be somewhere close to 80. So it should be 8 into something. But generally, for that less frequency, we don't use an LC oscillator. So this is the right answer. Irrespective of whatever you have marked, if you have attempted this question, you will get marks. Okay. 44. I hope I'm clear with the concept, right? Keeping the mistake aside. I hope you're clear with what you're supposed to do if this kind of question comes, right? Provided
Yes.
this resistance is not given. Okay. So in an AC circuit, the voltage applied is E is equal to E naught and sine of omega t. The resultant current in the circuit I is equal to I naught of sine omega t minus pi by 2. The power consumption in the circuit will be E naught into I naught divided by root. No, actually, power consumption will not be E naught into I naught by root 2.
0,
It is
sir.
it will be 0. Because what is the formula for power? ERMS into IRMS into
RMS
cos.
cos phi.
Where phi is what? Phi is the phase difference between the current and the voltage. Here the phase difference is pi by 2. So it will be a 0. Had the question been about a resistor, then the answer would have been E naught into I naught divided by root 2. Sorry, E naught into I naught divided by 2. Because ERMS into IRMS into cos phi, phi will be 0 for a resistor, then the answer will be 0. See, sometimes they can ask you, what is this kind of a circuit also? But generally, they will not do that when power consumption is to be asked. But here you are able to see that the current is lagging the voltage by pi by 2. So they can ask you what kind of a circuit it is. Anyway, 45th. No two electric field lines can intersect each other. Obvious? True. Tangent at any point of the electric field line gives the direction of electric field. True. So both are right. The reason, the right explanation for this. Is it right?
No, sir.
Why?
They should say about no, if it intersects, then there'll be two directions. They're not mentioning that.
They didn't mention it. Actually, the answer should be B. Okay. No two electric field lines of force can intersect each other because the tangent at any point of the electric field line gives the direction. That is a fact. But why can't it intersect? Because two tangents can be drawn. That is the reason actually. So individually, both the statements are right, but B is more appropriate. When charges are shared between any two bodies, no charge is really lost, and some loss of energy does occur. Okay, when charges are shared between any two bodies, no charge is really lost, and some loss of energy does occur. Is that right?
No, sir.
Some energy disappears in the form of heat, sparkling, etc.
True,
Let
sir.
me read that. When charges are shared between two bodies. Okay. Here it is slightly ambiguous. When charges are shared between two bodies, are they isolated system? Since your theory says it's isolated, I'm taking it. No charge is really lost, and some energy loss does occur. Yes, it does, Ram. It does.
Yes, sir. Answer A.
Yes, sir.
It does
Answer
happen.
says, sir.
Answer is A. Because why will it happen? I told this many times, right? When two charged bodies are connected, this we have discussed many times. Then the charge between the objects will stop flowing when their potential becomes the same. You remember that concept? The concept of common potential. So initially, if this has charge Q and potential V, if this has Q1 V1 and this has Q2 V2, then what will happen? The charges flow will stop when they attain a common potential. Now, when you try to calculate the energy and see, right, there will be some loss that is occurring during this process. And that loss might be in the form of heat or sparkling, etc. It can be in any form. So the answer is A, correct. 47th, voltmeter is connected in parallel with the circuit. Sorry, false. Sorry, true only. Yeah, voltmeter is connected in parallel with the circuit. Second, resistance of the voltmeter is very large. This is also true. But is that the reason why you connected in parallel?
No, sir.
Why? Then why do we connect it?
So that it can measure accurate voltage.
No,
Not
we connected in parallel.
Sir, we
because,
connect because
It's
current
equal
can
amount
pass
of
through if we
voltage.
connect in series, right? Sir?
yes. So only across two parallel elements, there will be an equal amount of voltage. That is the reason why you connect a voltmeter in parallel. Okay. So 47th, again, what is the right answer? It is B.
B.
Sir, I have a
48.
doubt, sir. Sir, I have a doubt in 47.
47. Tell me, what is it?
Sir, why can't it be A, sir? They're saying the reason is resistance is very large, sir. So since resistance is very large, if we connect it in series, it won't go right. So current won't pass through.
No. See, the reason why you connect a voltmeter in parallel is not because the resistance is large. If I have a resistor here, okay, R1 is there. I have R2 here, okay. How are they connected? Provided I connect a battery here.
And parallel, sir.
They're in parallel, right? When you use the word parallel, what comes to your mind? Potential
Equal
difference and current,
voltage.
which one? Equal potential, right? So that is the reason why you connect. Now I can say if I connect a voltmeter here, then that voltmeter will also have the equal amount of potential difference across its end. And that value it is showing in the pointer, with the pointer, is what is the reading across the potential across the resistor. That is the mean. That is the reason why you connect in parallel. It is not because resistance is high.
Okay,
Similarly,
sir.
you connect an ammeter in series because only in series connection the current is going to be the same. Okay, that is why we say whenever you need to measure the accurate value, you need to ensure that no current is drawn by these devices. So if no current is to be drawn by a device in series, right, then how much should be its resistance? It should be ideally zero. That is why we say an ideal ammeter has a zero resistance. You're able to understand, Rohan? Is everyone able to understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I understood.
Right? So similarly, if you take a voltmeter and connect it, you need to ensure that this measuring device is not drawing any current. If it should not draw any current, you need to ensure that there is no current flowing through this at all. If there is no current that should flow through this, it should be ensured that the voltmeter has a very high resistance. That is why the voltmeters in generally are designed with high resistance. So basically, you learned about the concept of galvanometer being converted to voltmeter and ammeter, right? All these devices work on the same principle. What is it? When current is flowing through them, they're going to show some deflection. The pointer will see, deflection is a mechanical property. How will something rotate? By experiencing torque. How will you generate torque using magnetic field? By passing some amount of current through it. You're able to understand. So all these devices
Yes,
work
sir.
on the same principle. But what you do is, across all these devices, you keep changing the value of resistances so that one device can work as an ammeter and one can work as a voltmeter.
Okay, sir.
Okay, that is a mean. They can ask this kind of a question also, something related to galvanometer being converted to ammeter and voltmeter. If they give you some story, right, like how they did in the math paper about those young achievers and all those things, like they give some story, you should not be in a you should be in a position to understand. Okay? Read it carefully. Next, free electrons always keep moving in a conductor, even then. Sorry, 1 minute. Free electrons always keep on moving in a conductor, even then no magnetic force act on them. Okay, even though no magnetic force act on them in magnetic field, unless a current is passed through it. Free electrons always keep on moving in a conductor, even then no magnetic force act on them in magnetic field unless current is passed through it. Okay. Even then, no magnetic force acts on them, in magnetic field unless a current is passed through it. Is that right? Free electrons always keep moving in a conductor. Is that right? So where do you find free electrons?
Inside a conductor, sir.
Inside a conductor. So those free electrons have a random motion even before you connect the potential difference. We discussed this in drift velocity concept. That is what they're trying to say. Free electrons always keep on moving. They're not trying to say keep on moving in a particular direction. It always keeps on moving in a conductor. Even then, no magnetic force acts on them. If you take this conductor and place it in a magnetic field, what will happen? They will not experience any force unless there is a current passing through it. What is the meaning of this? A very, very, very tricky statement. Do you guys understand what they're trying to say? One point, what we will start thinking, free electrons always keep on moving means, does it mean that when the electrons are moving inside a conductor, current is constituted? What does drift velocity concept tell us? You have a conductor. Inside a conductor, there are free electrons, correct? How are these free electrons going to move? They will move in some random direction such that the vector sum of their initial velocity, the average of the vector sum of their initial velocities is how much? Is a zero.
Zero, sir.
Can I say, though they are moving this current constituted in the circuit, is that what we learned? When can you say current is constituted in it? Only when you connect it across a potential difference. When you connect the potential difference, what will happen? They will start getting drifted. They will start getting aligned to a particular direction because of the electric field inside. And then we say current is constituted. Having all these points in mind, now read the statement. Free electrons keep on moving in the conductor. So are they talking about the condition before connecting the potential difference or after? What is the meaning of the first statement that they are given? Free electrons always keep on moving in a conductor. Always keep on moving in a conductor. This is right. They keep moving inside the conductor even though you don't connect any potential source. Then you take the system and place it in a magnetic field. Will it experience force? Will this kind of a conductor experience force? Because what does the force say? Force in a magnetic field is BIL sin theta. Magnetic field is there, current conductor will have length. You can place it at certain angle, which is a non-zero value. But what about current? Is current flowing through this kind of a device? Answer is no. So whatever they say is a right thing. If that is a right thing, why is it a right thing? It is because the average velocity of free electron is zero. That is what I told you. U1 vector plus U2 vector plus so on till UN vector divided by N is a zero. So both are true. Is the reason the right explanation for A? Guys, at least attempt, no? Try to understand. I know it is a tricky question, but try to understand. At least make some attempt to understand. Guys, is there any doubt?
No, sir.
No, right? Then A is the right answer.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Next. Soft iron is used as the core of the transformer, no doubt. Why is it used? Because area of the hysteresis loop for small soft iron is small. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is. So both are right. So Lenz's law violates the principle of conservation of energy.
False.
False. So it is false. A is false. R is true. 51st. A bulb is connected in series with a solenoid. 1 minute. 1 minute. Yes. There. This is also there. Okay. 45 and 50. So there is a bulb which is connected in series with the solenoid, is connected to an AC source. If soft iron is introduced into the solenoid, the bulb will glow brighter. Is that right?
False.
Why? When you insert a soft iron, you know that L is directly proportional to mu naught into mu r. So when an iron is inserted, what will happen to its permeability? Permeability will increase. If permeability increases, inductance will increase. If inductance is increased, inductive reactance is increased. If inductive reactance is increased, current is decreased. So what are the steps, guys? So when you insert a soft iron, what will increase? Mu increases. When mu increases, L increases. When L increases, XL decreases. When XL decreases, current decreases. Current decreases, brightness decreases. Okay. So this is false. On
Sir, the
introducing a
same in
soft
case of a capacitor would be different, right? Like
capacitor, yeah,
for that
capacitor,
reactance would be inversely proportional.
yeah, it will be inversely proportional, but for a capacitor, they can't use the word soft iron core, rather they'll use the word dielectric.
Okay, sir.
Got it? So dielectric is inserted, what will happen? Since you asked me, I'll tell this. But before that, let me complete this question. On introducing soft iron core in the solenoid, the inductance increases. That's what I told you. So A is false, R is true. Right? Suppose the question is about a resistor and a capacitor. Okay. Now, if a dielectric is introduced, what will happen to its capacitance? So C will be equal to, when dielectric is inserted, what happens to its
K times of the
K times.
original.
A times
Copper.
epsilon not AD.
So generally the value of copper is greater than 1. So its capacitance will increase. So capacitance increases. What will happen to its reactance?
Decreases.
When
Decreases.
reactance decreases, what will happen to the current? It will increase. When current increases,
Increase.
brightness increases. Maybe had the same question been, instead of a soft iron core, a dielectric, and instead of a solenoid, had it been a capacitor, the option that they gave is right. The A would have been right, but B would have been wrong, because capacitance also increases. Correct. I hope you're able to understand it. You can manage it if this is asked. Generally, I've never seen question with capacitor, but since you asked, I explained it. But you can think, right, if it comes in exam.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is enough for me. Yeah. So a transformer is essentially an AC device. It cannot work on DC, accepted. It changes alternating voltages or currents. It does not affect the frequency of an AC. It is based on the phenomenon of mutual induction. Correct. A transformer essentially consists of 2 coils insulated copper wire having a different number of turns and wound on the same iron core. That is same soft iron core. The number of turns in the primary coils of an ideal transformer are 2000 and 50 respectively. Primary and secondary coils of an ideal transformer 2050 respectively. The primary coil is connected to the main supply of 120 volt and the secondary coil is connected to a bulb of resistance 0.6 volt. Now, what is going to be the voltage that will appear across the secondary coil? So, what is the formula, guys? E1 by E2 will be equal to N1 by N2. E1 is how much? 120 divided by E2 is what you need to find. What are the number of turns in the secondary? 2000 divided by 50. Cancel it. This goes 40 times. This goes 3 times. Answer is 3. So, it is a step down transformer. The value of the current in the bulb is. So what will be the value of current in the bulb? So 3 volt is appearing across a bulb of resistance 0.6 volt. Sorry, 6 ohm. So I will be equal to 3 divided by 0.6. That is 30 divided by 6. Answer will be 5 amperes. The value of current in the primary coil. So how to calculate the current in the primary coil? So what is the other assumption that we do? We say that there is no power loss. So power across the current across the primary coil into the voltage across the primary coil is equal to current across secondary coil into IS. So IP divided by IS is equal to ES divided by EP. Current in primary coil, what is the current in the secondary coil? That is 5 is equal to ES is how much? ES is 3 divided by 120. So this goes 40 times. So 1 by 8 is 0.125. So what is the power in the primary coil? 8 into IP into EP. EP is how much? 8 into power in the primary, correct only, no? So sorry, 8 here, 1.125. So IP is equal to 0.125. So power in the primary coil is equal to the power in the secondary coil also. So power in the secondary coil is easy to calculate. IS into, what is the value of ES, guys? ES is only 3 into 5. No, it is 15. Am I clear? Is there anyone having a doubt?
Clear, sir.
Clear, right? Okay. So this is all about today's paper. Okay. So you guys practice. I just have a few updates to tell you. What we will do is, you have done the DPTs already, right? So what I'll do, I'll ask my team to open up all the DPTs again for the next 2 days. So whichever chapter you're not confident, I suggest you guys to go and see it again. Try it again so that you're able to manage time. And go through, if you have already solved these things in the past itself, you'll already have the solutions in it. So go through the solutions of all the questions where you think you made a mistake and you still have a doubt. At that point, let's say you have done it with a guess or something. Now make sure that you're clear with that concept. Are you able to understand? So these DPTs will be open for today and tomorrow. All the DPTs that we have given it in the past. Okay, so make use of it. If you still have any doubts or something, you can reach out to me on the student support number. Okay. If I'm not picking the call, just ensure that you're dropping a voice note to me. I'll try to respond within 2-3 hours. Okay. Is that clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Keep preparing. Okay. All the best.
Sir,
Yeah, tell me.
sir, can you say the difference between the formula BIL sine theta and B square L square V by R? Like, is it just we're converting, or what is the exact difference between them?
BIL sine theta and B square L square.
V by R. Both are force.
Okay. So this BIL sin theta, you will apply it when you already have a magnetic field in which you place a current carrying conductor of length L. Okay, this current is generated by some external source. Whereas you will use this B square L square B by generating the current using motional EMF. Are you able to understand?
Okay.
So that is why this question comes under the Ampere circuit law. You would have seen there only, if I'm not wrong. There is an example problem where you will have the graph and all those stuff. There, this formula comes.
Yes, sir.
Right? Yes. So it is simple only. It is just
Okay,
a
sir.
simple conversion. B into L into EMF is how much? BLV divided by R. Where did you get this BLV from? It is from the motional
Motional
EMF. That point you will use it. Both are same only.
Both the force are due to the induced current on the conductor itself, but
No, not induced current. The logic is same. This thing. What did Lorentz tell us? Lorentz told when there is a charged particle moving in a magnetic field, it starts experiencing force. Right? So if the same charged particle, the collection of charged particles are moving in a conductor, you call it as current. Correct? So when you place a current carrying conductor in external magnetic field, that will also experience force. Okay. So actually it is like this. QEB, what is this? QEB sin theta is what?
Lorentz force.
Lorentz force, right? So if I take a conductor, the conductor, let's say it has a length L and the speed inside is V. Okay. So I divide it with time and multiply it with time and I put a B and a sin theta. Okay. What is Q divided by T according to physics? Is it not current? V into T is how much? Speed into time is displacement into B into sin theta. Did you understand?
Yes, sir.
This is a simple conversion. That's it. So it is I into L into B sin theta. From this I into L into B sin theta, you're using this. So it depends on how the current is produced. If the current is connected, if the conductor is connected across a potential source and you place it in external magnetic field, then you're going to use this formula. If the current is induced by you and you're going to place it by using motional EMF concept and you're going to place it in external magnetic field, then you will use this formula. Even if you don't know this formula, not a big deal. If you know this, you can solve it.
Okay, sir.
Okay, hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. But then this force is caused due to that magnetic field or the current, sir?
It is because of the magnetic field. Generally, it is because the current carrying conductor is placed in magnetic field, it experiences force. I
Okay,
told
sir.
you just
Because of
now.
the
This is
external
because of,
current.
yes, because of the QEB sin theta, because of Lorentz force only, this force comes into picture.
Okay, sir. Understood. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So any other doubt, guys? Okay, if no more doubts, we can wind up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.